Go to Jerusalem today. Look at the foundation stones of the Temple Mount. Some of them weigh hundreds of tons. Even with modern cranes, we would struggle to move them. The Bible makes a strange claim in 1 Kings 6:7. It says that when the temple was being built, neither hammer nor axe nor any tool of iron was heard in the house. A massive stone structure built in total silence. How? For centuries, rabbis and historians have argued about this. But one text, the Testament of Solomon, gives an answer that most people are afraid to touch. It claims the temple wasn't built by human hands alone. It was built by a slave labor force of demons, bound in chains by a master sorcerer, King Solomon. The story starts with a crime. Solomon noticed that his favorite young workman was wasting away. The boy was the master of the stonemasons, but every day he looked thinner, paler, and weaker. Solomon called the boy in. "Do you not like the food at the king's table?" The boy revealed a terrifying secret. Every night after the sun went down, a demon appeared in his room. The spirit forced the boy to hand over half of his wages, and then, in a bizarre and grotesque detail, the demon would suck the thumb of the boy's right hand. He wasn't just stealing money, he was stealing the boy's vitality. He was a vampiric spirit named Ornias. Solomon was the wisest man on earth, but wisdom can't stop a demon. He needed power. He went into the temple and prayed. He didn't ask for an army. He asked for authority over the spirits. The text says, the Archangel Michael descended in a flash of light. He held out a small object. It was a ring with a seal engraved upon it, often depicted as a pentagram or hexagram. Michael said, "Take this, O King Solomon, for with it thou shalt lock up all the demons of the earth, male and female." This is the origin of the legendary Seal of Solomon. It wasn't jewelry, it was handcuffs. Solomon didn't go fight the demon himself. He gave the ring to the weak, dying boy. He told him, "Take this ring. When the demon comes tonight, throw the ring at his chest and say, 'Come.' Solomon summons you." That night Ornias arrived, expecting an easy meal. He laughed at the boy. But then the boy hurled the ring. It hit the demon. Immediately Ornias was paralyzed. The fire went out of him. He screamed, offering the boy all the gold in the world if he would just take the ring away. But the boy refused. He dragged the terrified spirit to the feet of the king. The interrogation was about to begin. Most exorcists drive demons out. Solomon kept them in. He looked at the trembling vampire demon Ornias and issued a command that changed history. He didn't banish him back to hell. He pointed to the massive quarry stones that needed to be moved for the temple. "You shall not rest," Solomon ordered. "You shall cut these stones and bring them to the temple site." The demon begged for mercy, but the ring forced him to obey. The text describes a scene of supernatural servitude. Ornias, a being of spirit and malice, was forced to act like a crane. He lifted stones the 10 men couldn't move. The silence of the temple construction was real, because the noise wasn't coming from hammers, it was coming from the groans of enslaved spirits. But one demon wasn't enough. The temple was too big. Solomon realized the ring was a key that could unlock the entire underworld. He forced Ornias to go and fetch his superior. It was a sting operation. Ornias, terrified of the ring, went out and called to the prince of demons. The prince arrived, expecting a sacrifice. Instead, he walked right into the king's trap. The text introduces him as Beelzebub. In the hierarchy of hell, he is second only to Lucifer. He is the lord of the flies, the ruler of chaos. He appeared before Solomon not with fear, but with arrogance. He looked at the human king and laughed. The interrogation between Solomon and Beelzebub is one of the most tense moments in apocryphal literature. Solomon held up the ring. Beelzebub snarled. Solomon asked, "Who are you?" Beelzebub replied, "I am the ruler of the spirits that wander the earth. I make men worship demons. I excite priests to lust. I bring about jealousies and murders, and I instigate wars." He admitted to being the architect of human misery. He told Solomon, "I destroy kings. I ally myself with foreign tyrants, and I will destroy you." It was a threat, but Solomon didn't blink. He slapped the seal of the ring against the demon prince's chest. Beelzebub fell. The power of the Archangel Michael, stored in the ring, was stronger than the Prince of Hell. Solomon didn't just bind him, he humiliated him. He forced the Lord of the Flies to work as a common laborer. The text says Solomon ordered Beelzebub to saw marble blocks. Imagine the irony. The entity that convinced nations to go to war was now covered in dust, cutting rocks for a temple dedicated to God. Solomon realized he could catch them all. He began to summon them one by one, demons of disease, demons of the wind, demons of the water. He was building a zoo of monsters, and he was the warden. Solomon continued to cast his net into the spirit world. The next entity dragged before the throne was furious. He roared like an animal. It was Asmodeus. If you watched our last video on the Book of Tobit, you know him. He is the demon who strangled 7 husbands on their wedding night. He is the one Raphael chased into Egypt. But here he is face to face with the king. Solomon asked him, "Who are you?" Asmodeus replied with contempt, "I am the one who prevents husbands and wives from joining together. I ruin marriages, I destroy the beauty of virgins." He also dropped a bombshell about his origin. He claimed, "I was born of a human mother and an angel father." He admitted to being a Nephilim, one of the hybrid monsters from the Book of Enoch. Solomon noticed something strange. Asmodeus was powerful, but he was twitchy. When Solomon interrogated him about his weaknesses, Asmodeus admitted, "I fear the angel Raphael, and I fear the smoking liver of the fish." It confirms the Tobit story perfectly. This demon has PTSD from the exorcism in the wedding chamber. But Solomon didn't care about his trauma. He wanted his labor. He commanded Asmodeus to help build the temple. Specifically, he ordered him to craft the clay vessels for the altar. The king of lust, who used to kill men for sport, was now forced to work as a lowly potter, molding clay for the glory of the god he hated. Not all the demons were male. Solomon summoned a female spirit named Ornias. She appeared as a beautiful woman with a fair complexion, but the text gives a disturbing detail. She had the legs of a mule or donkey. She told Solomon, "I dwell in caves and precipices. I strangle men, and I pervert them from their true nature." She was a shapeshifter, a siren. But Solomon had no use for her beauty. He needed rope. He looked at her mule legs and ordered, "You shall spin the hemp for the ropes of the temple." The image is surreal. A supernatural succubus sitting in the dust of Jerusalem, forced to spin rope day and night for the construction crew. Solomon was winning. He had a zoo of demons doing his bidding. He felt invincible, but Asmodeus gave him a warning. While he was in chains, the demon looked at the king and prophesied, "You bind us now, O king. But a time will come when you shall abandon the commandments of God. You will follow our ways. You will build temples for us." Solomon laughed it off. He had the ring, he had the power. But the demon was right. The Testament of Solomon isn't just a story about building a temple. It's a tragedy. It explains why the wisest man on earth eventually lost his mind and started worshipping dark gods. He spent too much time looking into the abyss, and eventually the abyss looked back. Solomon's parade of monstrosities continued. But the most terrifying one came near the end. Solomon summoned a spirit that had no head. The text describes a gruesome figure, a body with eyes located on its shoulders, or sometimes described as a writhing dragon-like mass. Solomon demanded, "Who are you?" The spirit replied, "I am the demon of murder. I cut off the heads of men who stand in the high places. I do not burn like fire. I strike like lightning." This wasn't a trickster demon. This was a hitman. Solomon realized that he was staring at the spirit of pure violence. But even this monstrosity bowed to the ring. Solomon ordered the headless spirit to maintain the fires of the kiln, forcing the entity of death to create the bricks for the house of life. When the temple was finally finished, Solomon had a problem. He had thousands of demons in Jerusalem. He couldn't just let them go. He devised a final solution. The text says Solomon cast bottles of brass, metal vessels. He forced the demons inside one by one. Then he sealed the bottles with the ring. He took these vessels and buried them deep in the earth or threw them into the sea, the great deep. This is the historical origin of the genie in the lamp, or the jinn in the bottle, from Arabian mythology. It wasn't just a fairy tale. It was a memory of Solomon's prison system. He tried to lock evil away in a jar, but jars eventually break, as Modius was right. The ring could control demons, but it couldn't control the human heart. In his old age, Solomon fell in love with a foreign woman, a Jebusite. She refused to be with him unless he worshipped her gods, Moloch and Remphan. Solomon, blinded by lust, agreed. He didn't want to make a big scene, so he compromised. He took 5 locusts, grasshoppers, and crushed them in his hand as a sacrifice to the idol Moloch. It was a small act, just 5 bugs, but it broke the covenant. The text says, "And immediately the Spirit of God departed from him." The ring lost its power. The wisest man on earth died a fool, tricked by the very lust he thought he had conquered. The testament of Solomon is a warning. When you stare into the abyss stares back. Solomon thought he could use evil to build something holy. He was wrong. But if you think Solomon's demons were scary, wait until you see where they live. Next time on the Enoch Archives, we will open another interesting lost book. Like this video if you are ready for the next tour, and subscribe to this channel. The archives are always open.